With the recent release of All Under Heaven, the Princes of Darkness team has done something quite incredible. They updated their mod pretty much hours after it came out, and now we have the earliest iteration of the Blood and Silk update, the greatly expanded reaches of the Far East and many of the kindred who live there. Today I've partnered with lead character artist and artist for the mod in general, LeSithia, to bring you some starts that we recommend. The first one I want to recommend is Pia Pyong, and this is a character that I've played pretty extensively here on the channel. I did about a 10-hour run over the course of 2 videos. She is a bookmark character, however, so if that's something that bothers you, of course you don't have to play as her, but she has access to a ton of different decisions, and there's a lot of things that she can do, and she's related pretty heavily to the Scarlet Phoenix Court. She's probably one of the main decision-focused characters, or at least has a lot of things that they can do, so I do recommend her. I'm going to read her lore for you so you can get a little bit of a sense of what she's about, but if you have not seen the video where I played as her and then took down one of the Yama Kings, I do recommend that because they were a lot of fun, and also it's just, I guess, a bit more context into her character, and you can see she's pretty strong. She has access to a pretty powerful Wu, the Flaming Monkeys, which has 6 members, not 5, and again, she gets access to the Scarlet Phoenix Court and all of its mechanics, which are quite fun. But let's look at her lore. As the 5 August courts slowly collapse, the Scarlet Phoenix Court descends into anarchy as Akuma vie for power with corrupt officials, all the while defending their territory from ferocious Pharaoh, who would hunt them down regardless of allegiance. While many have already gave up on the fight or simply joined the chaos, the Devil Tiger Pia Pyong hasn't. A striking figure and a skilled fighter, Pia has also achieved a deep understanding of her nature, eventually creating her own sect or religion, the Passion Bloodflowers. She experienced her moment of enlightenment that made her I cannot read this word, I'm sorry, when she watched a mantis devouring her mate. Her philosophy taught that the Wan Kui must be like the mantis, dangerous, capable of bearing deadly young, and willing to dispose of her mate when their uses have dried up. Pia Pyong teaches that the female form is the repository of creation and that the woman's essence enables fertility. 3 truths of life are universally recognized as its basic tenets: consumption, digestion, and reproduction. As her following grows and her martial victories accumulate, the Red Dragon stands poised to save Southeast Asia and remake the region in her image. Her future fate in canon is that, along with her Wu, she will eventually defeat the devil worshippers and reorganize the local Wan Kui into the Golden Courts. She will reach the 100 Clouds in 1700, but her legacy as the Pengalan will remain. And she gets a decision pretty early on to become a conqueror as well, so she has a really, really strong start. I would say she's a fairly easy character to play, but I do recommend it. It was a ton of fun. And then doing one of the hunts for the Yama Kings, which doesn't happen until 1430, I think. 1430, I think that's when it was. It's really, really cool. So I definitely recommend playing her for a while. Probably taking up most of this is because that's what I did. You can fight the Onda Hordes. There's a lot of great stuff. I do probably peripherally recommend the Onda Horde just because they seem pretty cool and they have some other decisions that are kind of Mongol-like. They are Mongol, of course. And they play into the central story of China and Southeast Asia. So definitely worth checking out. The second character I'm going to recommend is Kingly Ancestor Shou, or the Beast, the Flame-Eater of Lingnan. She's not as content rich, and she is another bookmark character. However, I think playing as a strong Akuma is really interesting. She does have demonology, as you can see. And she has access to the birth of a new Yama King, which is really, really fun. I liked this journey a lot, being able to explore Umbra and sort of figuring out how to bind different wraiths and increase your Umbra prowess, or increase your Umbra aptitude rather, and your prowess. It's a lot of fun. It's a pretty long journey. There's other things that you can also do once the Long United falls. You can become a Vanguard of the Demon Emperor, or you can also take the fight to the Onda Horde as well if you so wish, although it doesn't really fit her character. She has access to her easiest access, I should say, too, is the Flame Court, because she's, the Flame Eater, so it kind of fits her character. And it's interesting because all of her children don't like her, so trying to manipulate them to follow the faith that you follow, which is like a generalist demon faith, is really interesting. Apparently, she's the strongest Akuma in this region, like the one walking the earth, and we can read a little bit of her lore as well. This character is part of the World of Darkness, but only has a very limited backstory. As such, it was expanded upon by Princes of Darkness developers to add greater depth to the setting. While the decline of the Scarlet Phoenix Court allowed many infernalists, heretics, and other foul spawn to take root in the night of the South China Sea, there is one horror that lies in those depths from time immemorial, as old as the eldest of the Akuma and among their most terrible. Even in the distant, removed courts of the Black Tortoise, there is whispers of a defiled, of truly terrible power, one that may challenge the Yama Kings on their own, a dreaded conqueror and all awakened, but of terrible enlightenment that would bring the world to its knees. Simply and eloquently called a beast, the Flame-Eater more than earns this title. The origin of the Flame-Eater are unknown, but it is believed that they were a disciple of Mahanaga in some way, one of their first walkers of 1,000 Screams. The eternal char on her flesh makes some believe she is of the hell of boiling oil, but such is mere conjecture, for none have asked her. What is known is that she has a truly voracious appetite in all things, seeking the most dangerous prey. Other Kuai-Jin, the few rare vampires, Pharaoh, mages, spirits, devils, and countless other things. that while being capable of drinking ambient chi, she instead prefers the succulent sweetness of fresh flesh. She has a unique decision as well, I'm going to just mention it now, where she can consume prisoners for experience in a bunch of different trees, which is really cool. She earned her namesake eating a devil tiger ancestor, who she slowly picked apart in agony while he was trying to burn her away with the god body of fire, and all it seemed to do was cook her meal for her. Crazy. She has stirred from her rest once more, as she has amassed a cult of fire, an army of despoiling pirates, all to her befouled wicked enlightenment. Be it meat for her table, warm bodies for her pleasure, the delectable screams of her victims, or 100 other things, she will draw forth from them 1,000 screams, hence the faith. Her future fate in canon, despite the monstrous fearsome power, the sheer weight of numbers allowed the remnants of the Scarlet Phoenix Court to overwhelm her, but they were unable to kill her, so they instead bound her deep into the earth, where she remains to this day. But unfortunately, Hong Kong would unwittingly rise over her prison, where the lifeblood of the city begins to seep into her hidden prison, where she starts to dream of the delicacies of fire and murder once more, stirring as the Sixth Age draws closer. Basically, in the modern times, she's trying to escape her prison under Hong Kong. Next, we're going to come over to Japan, and we're going to go to Countess Miyako, the Sword of Tyranny's Bane, which is just, when Miyako's blade is unsheathed, either she or a tyrant will fall. There is no alternatives. I believe she has a special blade as well. Okay, she does not. But this character is really interesting, mostly because I think she looks cool as hell. I've not played as her. I have played in Japan, and it has quite a lot of mechanics. This is not a character that was recommended to me by LeSithia, but more one that I saw and just found her very striking to look at, so I wanted to recommend her here. She is a vampire, unlike a lot of these other ones, which are hungry dead. She's a 5th generation vampire, by the way. Miyako saw her world end. Miyako was one among many of the myriad of peoples who lived in Japan before the rise of the Yamato rule, but as a girl, she had seen them begun to march into her land. Her own lord claimed to be a descendant of Susanoo and led her people against the Yamato. They lost horribly. Many of the soldiers under her lord were put to the sword, and the enemy soldiers began to trample through their lands. So Miyako, just a village girl, prayed and prayed for deliverance, for power, for the strength to resist. But not a single god answered, and the night her village was burnt, some soldiers turned to her. They laughed as they pressed her face into hot coals, but then, in a blur, they were silenced. All she looked up and saw was a storm, lightning in his eyes. She was dying. Her face began to char off in chunks. She begged him to help, so he leaned down and opened his mouth, and the next night Miyako woke up, her skin cold, her heart still, and a furious rage in her chest. Her savior was nowhere to be found, but on that day she swore an oath that rage that was now howling and shook inside of her would be turned tempered and turned into a furious blade. She would be the honorable blade in the dark that others like her had once lacked, the first of the Bushi Kainites, the childer of the storm. Since that night, Miyako wandered Japan alone, a phantom in the night, striking down abusive lords and killing soldiers that would strike at the conquered. In time, she would discover that a Byzantine system of courts ruled the night, and she vowed that their tolerance of the evils of the day would be punished in blood. She would center herself in Amakusa, where other outcasts of the night would flock to her cause. Her childer would be picked to stand with her in their zeal, steadfast and fiery against tyranny burning in their breast. And now, as her blood tribe stands strong as the courts wane, she will have her reckoning. And her parent is actually the Stone Man, eldest of the free, and he is a 4th generation vampire who is one of the Bruja. She's a Bruja. Although I think she counts as a Bushi, technically, which is like a specific clan of the Bruja, like an offshoot that's here in Japan. Really cool looking character, so I wanted to recommend her mostly because I think cool looking characters need to be mentioned. She's also 1,000 years old, which is significantly older than some of these other characters, but definitely give her a try. There's actually a lot of decisions in Japan and Korea. These are 2 of the more fleshed out areas as far as like decisions and storylines go, so definitely give her a try. This next character is going to be one that LeSithia recommended. This is Tandai Kagaseo, Tyrant of the Stars of Izo, or up here in what is the northern reaches of Japan. So she is the leader of the Japanese Infernalists, a kindred of ancient power, and is 6,000 years old and a development-focused vampire, which is pretty interesting. I love that she has this skeletal hand with the chest piece in there that looks rad as hell, and she can use blood sorcery, which is really dope. And the blood sorcery system was expanded in the last update, so if you wanted to try that out and while you're developing and sort of trying to take over northern Japan and probably usurp Japan in general, that could be a lot of fun. She also, of course, has access to different decisions. This character was created by POD developers as well. Long time ago, there was a Jomon scholar and a Jomon witch, both seekers of wisdom and heart. The scholar went to schools of magic and steel, while the witch went after seeking rumors of creatures in the night. The witch traveled far at the behest of the scholar, finally reaching a terrible figure of rolling flesh and voracious terror. The witch, however, came seeking not conflict, but an exchange of power. She professed loyalty to the flesh-shaping demon and requested they embrace her. The Flesh Shaper, wanting to see what would happen to a mage transformed by their curse, readily did so. And then, as the witch was slain and tasted the monstrous blood, The scholar's magic whisked her away back to their shared home, and when she returned, she found the scholar was no longer a mere mage, but a king of devils. She gave herself back to her true master, as both laughed beneath the stars out of pride for their ambition. And so, Kagaseo became the first Akuma, or worshipper, of the one who would become Yama King Mikaboshi. Since then, Kagaseo has been setting plans into motion for millennia, carefully waiting. She selected 3 mortals to take into her own embrace, and have them kneel before Mikaboshi. Her great clan was a tool of her lord, and to that end, she would shape her lineage to act where her master could not. She has received ample rewards for her enduring loyalty, including the forbidden knowledge allowing her to grow closer to Cain. And now, as the Kwaijin Zerg Dragon Court recedes from Japan and the next age draws near, she begins to galvanize her lineage and their adherence to her master. She aims to remake Japan in her master's image and be the one to crown him the Demon Emperor. So a pretty clear-cut path ahead of you here. So you're going to try and take over Japan and establish a realm or a world to usher in the coming Demon Emperor, or hopefully your Demon Emperor Mikaboshi. Next, we're going to come out here into the north of Viet, I think this is what this is, yes. And this is Phung Thi Chinh, the face of revolution. She is the strongest person in this area as far as I think skills go, and one of the stronger ones once the yellow courts fall. So she is pretty much the best buffer between Akuma and then the rising Scarlet Phoenix court, which I don't think will be necessarily hostile to you. They might be though, but either way, she has access to some unique decisions as well. The kind of the same thing that all of the non-Akuma have in this area, and she has some pretty interesting lore as well from what I understand. Vietnam is, compared to much of the rest of the Night World, a war zone. The collapse of the Scarlet Phoenix Court has opened up both interested southern hungry dead warlords from Indonesia and Malaysia and northern sycophants of the Chinese courts to hungrily eye and covet a region not their own. An insult she will not stand for. Chinh was born long ago, in a time when Vietnam was being exploited by the local governor. The rise of many warriors, both men and women, under the Trung sisters to throw the imperial overseers out. Chinh was one of the many aligned with their cause, who came to fame as a specially gifted warrior who could not be stopped, even giving birth on an active battlefield and fighting with her newborn in hand. However, no matter how righteous their cause, the generalship of Ma Yuan saw their rebellion destroyed, and Chinh, despite her bravery and strength of will, became one of the many killed, along those captured. Chinh, however, would not let her people's story end there. Rather, death taught her the danger of brazenness. In Lanka, she became a phantom. In her escape, she was a ghost. In return through the world of the living, she briefly tutored under one who would understand, and then returned to Vietnam. That is when numerous ancestors installed by Dien Nang met ignominious deaths. Wang Hongben's officials met glory ends, and Piao's daughters of scandal found their last dances. Finally, as the Scarlet Phoenix Court crumbles, Chinh steps from behind the curtain, asserting herself as an ancestor who stands not for Diang or Wang Hongben, but for her people and the nation she once fought for. Despite the more brazen opening, Chinh would play politics close to her chest and be wary of everything around them. When Piao was revealed to be outright unstoppable in her conquest, she negotiated assisting with Akuma hunts in return for unprecedented local autonomy. And into modern nights, her own take on the golden courts of Vietnam will flourish where others didn't stand the test of time. So an interesting character, one that you're going to have to kind of negotiate with the rising power of Piao, and then also with the Akuma in the area, which there's quite a lot of them, so something to keep in mind. But a really cool character up here in Vietnam for you to try out. This next character is actually the son of a character we just talked about, which is Shou. This is Ancestor Amphai, the Serpent Sovereign. So this character is another evil character. They're a little bit harder though than Shou. They are a former Naga kinfolk turned champion of a devil king, the grandmother, and he has built a harem of power in Thai region and is arguably the only Akuma who can genuinely challenge Piao if things shake down okay for you, basically. So if you consolidate your power quickly, you can kind of challenge her before she gets too powerful. Otherwise, you're going to probably have to go to Shou. This is an interesting character. I actually had a lot of interactions with them in my run because of Shou, and I ended up having kind of not a rivalry of sorts. I guess you could call it maybe, just because he was very strong-willed and did not want to bend to my wishes and convert to my faith. But still, a pretty interesting character. Across Asia, there are whispers of men and women that wear the shape of snakes. Among the night world, that they are secret agents and enforcers of the beast courts. They're mighty and fearsome assassins, subservient to the inscrutable will of their mother goddess. And among their kin, there are many who live and die forgotten and unsung. Amphai would not tolerate the same fate. If Gaia would toss him aside, he will break her and leave her shattered at his feet. Amphai was a Naga kinfolk born in the Indo-Chinese wilderness, not blessed with the first change. Amphai was promptly set up with a Naga wife 3 times his age. When he protested and asked for some other way to be useful, his legs were instead broken by his Naga father, who told him on no uncertain terms that if he didn't have children, he would kill him. Fortunately for Amphai, his sterility would be a death sentence, and he was executed for the unforgivable crime of being unwilling and unable to conceive a child, and for that his soul was sent to the hell of wretched magic. But unlike so many others, he simply accepted his fate, earning the curiosity of Grandmother Witch, the Hell's Yama King. When she questioned him on what he would do when he escaped, he merely told her he would kill the soul of the earth, and if she had nothing else, to leave him alone. Impressed by his answer, she took him in, trained him, and then released him back into the world of living, vested with infernal power. Slowly, his desire for more and more power behind a deceit of weakness for the sake of destroying Gaia has yielded fruit, as the Scarlet Phoenix Court wanes and an entire archipelago ripe for conquest lies before him. And at his side is finally the lovers of his own choice, brought into his coils, despite the estranged family that killed him. Amphai would be one of the very few defiled in Indochina to not meet death before Piao's campaign, holing up deep in the mainland and waiting. By the time of the modern Knights, he was perfected rites of invulnerability and espionage with numerous enthralled Naga below him, alerting him of all intruders in his domain of Vietane. Here he nears another final precipice to take on full power of a Yama King himself and use that power to launch his own campaign to conquer Gaia. So basically he wants to become like Jormungandr. It sounds like pretty cool. Obviously, he has the same decision as Shou, it looks like. So, Birth of the Yama King, Thriving in Chaos, and then Vanguard of the Demon Emperor. So, those are cool. He is also a Infernalist and a Demonology student, so you get access to some of those. I would recommend playing with the Fae or Pharaoh start, so you get like werewolves and stuff, so that you can also do more demonology things. So, that's really cool. But an interesting character. He's a little guy, and now he can, I guess, use his lover children at his disposal and sort of take over this region, which is interesting. Coming over here to near the Indian subcontinent, we have the kingly ancestor Shodashi. She has basically one of the most developmentally rich areas outside of China. So if you're a person who cares about being a development-focused character, she's pretty good at that. She has a lot of children that you can do a ton of things with, which is also useful. So you can basically create a Wu and use them for a bunch of different stuff. She is also a Kuai-Jin, so she's not a vampire, which is, I guess, to your benefit if you want to try out the new systems. She has similar decisions to some of the other non-Akuma characters. You would have to deal with the general because, he's a big guy and he doesn't like you because you're a hungry dead. So that's going to be something you'll have to contend with. Maybe becoming a vassal, that's up to you, of course. I am the queen, the gatherer up of treasures, most thoughtful, first of those who merit worship. Thus gods have established me in many places with many homes to enter and abide in. Through me alone, all eat the food that feeds them. Each man who sees, breathes, hears the words outspoken. They know it not. Yet I reside in the essence of the universe. Hear, one and all, the truth as I declare it. Such is what Shodashi teaches that the descended would deny, that the spawn of Zapathasura would torment, and that the lofty heretics of the north would deny, the self-evident and radiant light of the goddess that they would deny. Shodashi is old for the hungry dead, a contemporary of Shiva Om, but where Shiva Om would claim to be the son of the liar Sita, Shodashi does not deny she was mortal. She was born in Bengal to a mortal man and woman, and lived her life as a mundane nobody, barely pious, over-focusing on the mortal world, and for that she was enlightened by the hell. And for her wisdom, the divine essence of Mahavidya inspired her. A piece of divinity, a chance to be more, a chance to be greater, a chance to be as gods, made righteous by the flawed understanding of morality. As such, she took the name Tripura Sundari, that which made her whole. And since returning to the world of the living, she has preached to unite the goddess and make whole of humanity. Hell is broken. By her hands it will be fixed. But the lies must be ended. The sinners must be brought to wisdom, and the devils that plague the center of the world must be expunged. Reject duality and limitation, rise above it all, and be as gods to set the world right. Such is her cause. Such will be her will. So she's part of the godhood faith of a variant of the celestial tribe. The Dharma claims that they were once human before being chosen by Shakti to reincarnate into a transitory stage between their past mortality and their future divinity, which is interesting. A lot of really cool faiths over here in this new area, by the way, in case you were curious. I'm going to return to Japan for one more character, and this one's this is a Tremere, I think, if I'm not mistaken. She is one of Kagaseo's vassals, and she's a stupid Tremere, so she's literally slow. And she has access to unique gargoyles, so that's pretty cool. Basically, you could create, I think, the Eastern Pyramid, which is one of your decisions. You can also do gargoyle experiments, which is obviously pretty sweet. And she has some interesting lore. She's just a funny character because she's just like this person that kind of traveled and then ended up in Japan. She's very clearly a white person and is also kind of dumb, which I think is funny. Among the menagerie of horrors that the kindred cults of Mikaboshi employ, one foul execution remains the most feared to both defectors and enemies of the clan. The act of taking two beings, mutilating them, and tearing them apart, and reforming them into a new tortured monster. Within the halls of the Wicked Citadel, a foreigner with these arts, taken from a suicide mission and given new purpose, labors in blissful ignorance for the sake of creation. Hannah is from Northumbria, from the village of Slagford. Originally embraced to watch over a chantry, Hannah was something of an idiot. So rather than simply destroy her, the clan of Tremere proposed to her to be the one of the many expeditions to the east. Unlike others who were sent with gargoyles, Hannah was sent alone. Despite how much of a suicide mission it was, she did make it to China through sheer dumb luck before she was captured in a devil incursion. But there, the mastermind of the incursion, Kagaseo, saw opportunity. Kagaseo has seen other expeditions and wanted their gargoyles, so she instead proposed Hannah serve her in Mikaboshi, and Mikaboshi would reveal to Hannah her special fixation. Hannah, not fully realizing what this entailed, agreed in a heartbeat, ready and excited. She was brought to Japan with Kagaseo, where she immediately put her infernally gained knowledge to the test, forming several entirely new castes of gargoyles from the native blood drinkers in East Asia. The Bing Mayong, Kintsugi, Rogata, and Totai were her creations and would become the standard gargoyles her lineage would form, and thus a new pyramid was formed beneath the Devil King of Stars. Her future fate is that Hana's position within Mikaboshi's cult was her saving grace. Always surrounded by numerous gargoyles and safely distanced from the main Tremere, her lineage would flourish within the Chibo, Monomi, and Kushu as mages and transcendent flesh crafters. However, come modern nights, as the main body of the Tremere are beginning to realize the scope of how big the fuck up that's sending her east was, it may not be long before the Tremere decide to tie up loose ends and prevent Hana from destroying pacts and alliances she was never even aware existed. So a really fun, dumb Tremere, and another vampire character. I figured I'd throw one last one on there. This is also recommended by LeSithia. A lot of these were. Most of them were introduced to me by her, if not all of them. The only one that I kind of played on my own was Shou, because I thought she looked cool and she was a fun character. And then there's one final character I want to recommend, and that's kingly ancestor Hai-Lan. And this is the Heaven and Hell General. She has a ton of decisions as well up here in northern China. She's probably one of the better bets once the Yellow Emperor Court falls, and this is the last bookmark character I'm going to recommend. I wasn't going to do her, but then I figured just because she's so interesting, I kind of had to. She's pretty unique, and she also has her own woo to start off the game as well. She is part of the Relentless Age fan supplement and was used with permission. Hai-Lan was the daughter of a minor official of Zhongdu and lived an uneventful life until the Mongols came and destroyed the city, killing countless people in the process, including her and her childhood friend Ling Xiao. They were both sent hurtling into the hell of spiked chains, and it was there that Hai-Lan revealed herself. Leading a group of fellow prisoners to escape, they would become her woo, the demons of Zhongdu. She sees the breaking of the 5 August courts as disappointing, but not surprising. When she joined the Hungry Dead, falling in with the warrior cranes who would eventually found the charter cities of the Yellow Emperor Court, she'd heard more than her share of whining and bitching, always from the most unworthy immortals, bamboo princes who acted like they deserved the world. To General Ma, a proud and militant believer in the Eightfold Lotus Path, the truth is simple. You take what you deserve with bloody, battered hands. As General Ma sees that the night world of mainland China has reverted to the banditry and lawlessness of ancient times, which to her represents the returned opportunity of her misty youth. China is ripe for the taking once again, if there are hungry dead willing to follow her. There is no room for bitterness. The old August courts may have lost, but so what? They'd lost heaven's favor, grown fat and indolent in a beautiful world that they thought would last forever. The Onda and their allies in the heretical sects are not the inheritors of heaven. They have not built a polity from the chaos they sowed. They are merely a test, which the next worthy champions must face and defeat. Hai-Lan fully intends to be that champion, building an army to take cities one by one. There was once an empire of the dead, righteous and pure, and now China is ready for the next one. Despite the death sentence that directly opposing the Onda rule often was, through Hai-Lan's leadership and tenacity, she and her woo would survive this threat and outlast the hell she once belonged to. So basically, your biggest threat, of course, is the Onda horde, and you're going to have to overcome them, basically make a bulwark up here in northern China, and then repel them. You can usually collapse them once you attack them, dismantle the Onda horde, and then you can go towards reforming the Yellow Emperor Court once it collapses in like 10 years game time. And that's going to be it for me. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video. Thank you, LeSithia, as always, for participating and for helping me out with the list. I really appreciate it, and I hope that you guys enjoyed it. I hope that you enjoy this update. There's many more to come. I know that fiefdoms aren't here. There's a lot of different were creatures and hunters and stuff that haven't been added yet, but they will come with time. And as those come, I'll try to make other videos where I recommend those characters as well. But that's going to be it for me. As always, I'm Soul, and I will happily see you in the next one.